Get started, I'd be remiss if I did not ask, if you're living in LA, if you're filming in LA, if you are impacted by the wildfires.
Thank you for that. Yes, I mean I live in LA. Haven't been impacted directly. We had to evacuate just briefly. I do have relatives that part of their property is burned, but I do know people who lost their homes, their entire homes, and it's very unfortunate. And my thoughts and prayers go out to them. So thank you for asking that.
Absolutely. And same here, my most sincere regards for everybody that's been affected. Even though we are indirectly affected, we feel it still.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
for that.
So I'm gonna just jump right in, right? Your filmography is really impressive. And for me, and I know I speak for many, very memorable. And particularly films that center, Black folks, right? But
Mhm.
I mean, but you have a spectrum of shows that you've done, films, and also theater. And I'm curious, what's your favorite medium?
Oh, that's tough. So I like different ones for different reasons. In terms of the work, I like to do a film because you get a lot of time to get into the character and have those heartfelt moments to where you really feel the character. Um, However, going to a film set, I can get to work at 6 and not even really work until 10 or 12. You sit in your trailer a lot.
Right.
Um,
Right.
on the flip side of that, I love television because I know as soon as they call me into work, I know in the morning, I know I'm going to be working. We're going to be rehearsing at this time. We're going to be shooting
Mhm.
because we're on a very strict schedule.
Okay.
However, through multiple episodes, you don't get as much time to feel and be the character. So I like different ones for different reasons. But yeah,
Okay.
just different ones.
Well, I'll tell you this, watching the Watson screeners, I would not be able to detect that.
Dr. Lovick's diagnosis makes perfect sense for an immunologist. Except, I want you all to think beyond your specialties.
You definitely get into the role. I'm hooked. And I say this as a person who really doesn't watch TV.
Uh-huh.
It's the perfect, I find my critique is that it is the perfect, it has all the trappings of the perfect series, drama series, right? That is totally binge worthy and addictive. And so
Uh-huh.
the obvious is that, there's the Sherlock Holmes and the John Watson um, theme, your underlying
Mhm.
theme, and how familiar it is, to a broader audience. And so I'm curious if you know what sparked that idea to pair that.
Creator of the show, Craig Sweeney, he was one of the producers on Elementary,
Okay.
which is another CBS show that was also based around the Sherlock Holmes mythology.
Mhm.
And he just came up with a great concept. And what I love with this show is so it has elements of the traditional medical show to where, yes, we will be in a hospital setting and we would diagnose and treat patients in the hospital. However, in addition to that, we also go out into the field like detectives where we gather the information to
Mhm.
come help solve these medical mysteries. So we're in the hospital, we're doctors. When we're in the field, we're detectives. So we combine those to be detectives. And that's one of the
Right.
things that is unique about the show is that we are a medical and detective show together.
Yeah, and that was a recurring line, right? We're
Yes.
detectives, right? We're doing this
Yes, yes, yes.
detective work.
Because
Yeah.
everyone they don't need doctors. You get doctors on every corner. Some patients need detectives.
Everyone who comes into this clinic is a puzzle. They don't need doctors. Doctors are everywhere. Our patients need detectives.
Maybe she has scabies? A fungal infection? Could explain the hair. Stevens is.
Yes, Stevens's analysis is solid. It's entirely consistent with your training in. Oh, I'm sorry, I got bored.
Right. And so can you tell me a little bit about your role specifically? John
Yes. So
Watson?
John Watson. I love playing John Watson. John Watson is extremely curious and inquisitive doctor who's very curious about people and their genetics and just their being. And so he loves solving medical mysteries. He loves solving genetic mysteries. And so when the story opens up, excuse me. This story actually, let me just go back. This story is told from Watson's perspective. We are incorporating the Sherlock Holmes mythology, but it's from the perspective of Watson. So when the story opens up, Sherlock is, has died,
Right.
and Watson has to rebuild the chapters. You have to rebuild his life and start some new chapters. And I just love, I love the nuances of the character, just in terms of the challenges that he's dealing with.
Right.
He has a traumatic brain injury, so he's still not there and stable himself, but he still wants to help. He has the empathy to help people, and he wants to help people and save lives. And then he has to rebuild the lives. And he's very remorseful about some of the decisions that he's made, leaving his wife to go solve medical mysteries.
Right.
And we'll find out the depth of that relationship and what was at stake towards the end of the season. So there's so many different things he's dealing with, and he's really just trying to put his life back together. And while he's trying to do all of that,
Mhm.
we have some villains there that come by to try to prevent that from happening.
Right. I wasn't really ready for that one. I wasn't really that
You're
element.
ready.
Yeah, I
Uh-huh.
wasn't ready. I really thought there was going to be, just this doctor medical kind of mysteries and solving like those mysteries. I was not ready for the villainous element. Um, but you brought up the genetics, and it's also the show is providing like this learning curve, right? Um, Things that I was just not familiar with, like the songbird flu, that
Yes.
Dr.
Uh-huh.
Watson identified. And so
Uh-huh.
I'm curious about like that learning element for yourself. Like, are these actual things that, and are you learning them before, or you just jumping right into the material?
So all of the medicine is fully vetted by doctors. So songbird fever, the woman with the nipple on her foot, all those things are actually true. And there are a lot of cases and a lot of conditions that may seem fake, but they really are, in fact, true. But it's very challenging because I try to learn as much as I can about the cases. And early on, the first few episodes, I had the time to really kind of learn about the cases and understand what I'm saying. And I still,
Uh-huh.
to a certain degree, it's always easier for me to memorize the lines if I understand what I'm saying and why, if I have the
Right.
intention behind it. And so, but towards the end of shooting, by the time I get to episode 6 or 7, there's so much information that just doesn't all stick. It's almost kind of like cramming for a test. You're crammed
Right.
for a test, and then after the test is over, you forgot all the answers that you thought you knew.
Right. Well, I'm looking forward, certainly looking forward. And my last question for you, you got a lot coming up, the NAACP Image Award. And
Yes.
I want to know, aside from what else you have on the calendar, are you having fun with your craft still?
Oh yes, I am. I am. I definitely have fun. I love doing what I'm doing. It's because it's something different every day. I mean, the process is the same, and it's always a grind. This industry is always a grind, and sometimes things just don't go the way you want. But that's the fun of it. That's part of it. So yes, I'm definitely having fun doing what I'm doing.
Well, it's been a pleasure watching you, watching your ascension. I've been watching you since Boys in the Hood. I am a
Oh,
fan.